Hello and welcome to Middle Class Film Class Podcast. I'm Pete, and along with me, as always, is Tyler and Joseph.
Hey.
Hello.
This week, the Wheel of Destiny landed on my pick, 3:10 to Yuma.
You just remember that your old man walked Ben Wade to that station when nobody else would.
They had a lot of weapons, mister, and they were shooting bullets.
So before we get to the deep dive into 3:10 to Yuma, let's get some streaming picks from all three of us, whether it's on Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, a couple of good picks that you can watch at home. Joseph, you got a streaming pick for us?
Yeah, I got a couple actually. So this one is on Netflix. If you are a natural disaster movie fan,
You know how I love Dante's Peak.
and that's so funny you say that. My pick is actually Dante's Peak.
Oh, wow. That's actually on Netflix? I didn't even know.
Yeah, it is. We watched it a couple days ago, and I was like, "Holy shit, it's actually on here."
We talked about that last week when we
Yeah, it was like it was briefly mentioned.
when we did the following.
Yeah, as one of those parody movies to Volcano.
Is it good?
I've seen it before. It was like one of my favorites as a kid, actually, as far as disaster movies go.
Is that the Pierce Brosnan one?
Yeah, Pierce Brosnan, Linda Hamilton.
Ooh, Linda Hamilton.
Yeah. Linda Hamilton plays the mayor of the town. Mayor Wando is her name.
Wando?
Wando is her last name. Yeah. Rachel Wando.
Wando's got what plants need.
Yeah. But yeah, this movie is like really entertaining. I think I feel like watching it, I was like, this is like the Jurassic Park of disaster movies.
Oh, for sure.
It's just like entertaining from beginning to end. It's just like a roller coaster. Like I feel like I'm at Universal Studios while I'm watching it, you know. And Volcano, I don't know which one came out first, but they both came out around the same time.
Yeah, they did. I think it wasn't Tommy Lee Jones in Volcano.
Yeah, that's like about volcanoes in LA or something. Like
yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about.
And I feel like Dante's Peak is the superior of the two. And I think it's just like a really like solid movie from beginning to end. And some of the writing is a little cringe, but that's like 90s writing for you.
Yeah. The Dante Peak and Volcano. I think it was just perfect disaster movie. It was the perfect time and place for a disaster movie involving volcanoes.
All right, so Dante's Peak, February 7th, 1997 release date. Volcano, April 25th, 1997.
Oh shit! It was
Yes.
like a month and a half afterwards.
Wow.
And Dante's Peak box office 178 million, while Volcano 122 million.
Ooh.
So definitely the superior volcano disaster movie of 1997. It's been said many times. Yeah.
Yeah, I will come back to this movie more than I will Volcano.
Yeah, for sure.
Get the hell out of here with that bullshit Volcano.
And Pierce Brosnan, I think, is kind of what draws me into, just his eyes and his hair.
His handsome, classic good looks. Rotten Tomatoes score for Dante's Peak, though, 24%. Volcano, 50%.
What?
Is that user score or critic score?
I don't know. Let's see. Usually they'll do the tomato meter is kind of the generally accepted one. That's the one that will be report on any summary page you see.
Yeah.
Audience score for Dante's Peak, 38%. Volcano audience score is 31%. Both kind of about the same.
So, well, Dante's Peak is, I don't know, a little underrated.
I don't know. That's kind of a harsh criticism. If
Yeah.
you're out to make a disaster movie and you make Dante's Peak, I feel like that's a slam dunk.
The best disaster movie? I mean, I don't know if Dante's Peak is the best disaster movie, but
No, I mean, you set out to make a disaster movie, and the end result is Dante's Peak with Pierce Brosnan. I feel like that's a win.
yeah, and it's
For
like
sure.
you know, it's good. It's very like anxiety-inducing. A lot of it kind of turns into a horror movie almost, like when the ash covers the sky and there's like lightning striking, and it's the volcano, the magma has turned into the lake into acid.
What's your other streaming pick? You said you have more than one.
So yeah, Dante's Peak was my first one, and then my other one, I just watched last night actually on HBO Now. If you have HBO Now, is Legend, Tom Hardy movie from 2015.
Not the Tom Cruise movie.
Not Legend. No, that's Brad Pitt. Legends of the Fall.
Well, isn't there a Tom Cruise, like an old school Tom Cruise movie that's kind of like the Dark Crystal called Legend?
Maybe, I don't know. Tyler, do you know?
I was like raking my brain through a Tom Cruise Dark Crystal movie, and I was like,
maybe I'm just
someone
completely
Google
out of
Tom
left field,
Cruise
but-
and Dark Crystal.
So go ahead.
So yeah, Legend is a movie that came out in 2015 with Tom Hardy playing two characters, both like twin brothers. It's kind of like almost like a Guy Ritchie-esque kind of movie, but it doesn't have quite the writing for it.
So Tom Hardy is playing his own brother. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, he plays his twin brother. So they're the Cray brothers, like a London mafia kind of stuff from the 60s.
Yeah.
It's a historical biopic about these guys, and so there's Ronnie and Reggie Cray, and it's pretty good. I actually enjoyed it. It was a little long, kind of dragged a little bit, but overall I think.
Is it like an action movie, like a melodrama?
No, it's not really an action movie. It's more of like closer to a movie like Goodfellas or something.
Oh, okay. So it's just like it.
It's a mob
tension,
movie.
There's tension,
Mob drama.
tension
Yeah.
without action, sort of.
Yeah, but it has a little bit more comedy than say
Oh.
a Goodfellas.
How does it compare to Nicolas Cage playing brothers in Adaptation?
I can't speak on that.
That was pretty good. I like that. I like it when two actors, or the actor plays two parts in the same movie. It's always kind of fun.
Yeah, like Eddie Murphy.
I don't know about that.
I gotta say, I think that Tom Hardy does have the capability of doing that, playing.
Yeah, it's
himself.
Absolutely.
Playing with
Tom
himself.
Hardy can play every role for all I care.
Literally.
Yeah. Yeah, get lost in those lips.
Lips.
So yeah, his
wow,
brother, there's
legend.
Ronnie and Reggie Cray. Ronnie is actually a homosexual.
With himself.
And no. And like so so Reggie Cray just is like Tom Hardy, just with slick back hair, and then Ronnie Cray has like this makeup on his face that it makes his lips look bigger, and he has like really tiny bottom teeth.
Sounds like an
So they're not
interesting
twins.
So they're like
They're brothers, but not twins.
they're twins. They're twin brothers, but they just look slightly different. So and one wears glasses.
movie. I'm into it.
Taron Egerton plays Ronnie's like lover or fuck buddy.
FWB.
Yeah, it's good mob movie, funny.
Okay. I'll
Check it. I'll check it out.
I like
Yeah.
a good mob movie.
Yeah, Legend.
that one.
Legend on HBO Now.
By the way, 1985 Legend, Tom Cruise, directed by Ridley Scott, Mia Sara, Tim Curry. It is like a Dark Crystal kind of a knockoff. When I look at the poster, it looks familiar. It's like a devil with like comically oversized horns.
I gotta see that.
Tyler, what's your streaming pick for this week?
Okay, so it's gonna be a little bit different than Tom Hardy playing with himself.
Playing with himself.
I almost spit out my sangria.
So what I am suggesting, this is on Netflix. It's the series Neon Genesis Evangelion. It is a Japanese anime made in 1995 to 96. It was directed by Hideaki Anno and was written by the director wrote Evangelion. And
Hideki Anno.
yeah, it had a moderate budget for a Japanese anime film, but so I have two choices as well that relates to this. So Neon Genesis Evangelion obviously has a movie called The End of Evangelion, that's also on Netflix. And the reason why I'm suggesting it is because I don't know how long Netflix is going to have this show, because it's like a really iconic show in the Japanese anime scene. And so reason why I recommend it though is it has an incredibly, I would say it's realistic towards how the plot goes on the real world. So what happens in this show is that there is these things called angels, which are, supernatural creatures, or like this, just these huge behemoths of monsters wrecking havoc on the human race in the modern time we're living now. So it's kind of like it's like in the 2020s, like it's kind of like this was it kind of reminds me of like in how the Matrix like figured how the future would be. It's essentially like that. So it's set in the future, which is our present time now. And so there's a NATO-like government entity that is making these mech robots to fight these things. Reason why it's really good is because it's really well written and really well animated. Like it really immerses you. And so when Netflix first announced that Neon Genesis Evangelion was coming to their streaming service, I was ecstatic, because it's not on Crunchyroll, which is on the other anime streaming service, and it's nowhere else. The last time I watched this show was on a VHS tape.
Wow.
Does the animation style hold up from 1995?
Oh yeah, it's in the 90s, they really were all about the background scenes of this kind of
like a painted background with an animated foreground, that sort of thing, like a Hidaki.
I don't know if you guys are familiar with Studio Ghibli.
Yeah.
So
I was kind of getting at.
So the guy that made the guy who made Studio Ghibli, he was like I don't know what we would call it, just like he was basically designing like, aircraft and stuff like that, so he was really detailed. That's kind of how this show is just like it's really detailed in the foreground and stuff like that, which gets you really engaged. And plus it's dealing with some heavy anyways.
By the way, Tyler, Rotten Tomato score on Neon Genesis Evangelion, 100% on the tomato meter, 90% audience score. That's pretty damn good.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
it's really engaging, which brings me to my next point, which may be very controversial to anyone who is a fan of Evangelion, is I am recommending the movie The End of Evangelion, which is also on Netflix, which I don't know how long it's going to be on there, because this is such an iconic show, and I feel like iconic shows are not like represented on streaming services because they're so expensive,
because they have to pay for them more or something.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. They're so expensive, and like it's
so that was released in 1997. It's a standalone movie, like a footer almost to the series.
Well, yeah, and it's just, the thing I think about it is that it has a cult following, but I feel like it's not mainstream enough for corporate entities to be like, oh yeah, we're gonna spend $30-something million on the rights to stream this show and movie. So the End of Evangelion is very controversial because it kind of makes the ending of this show, null, essentially. It's a really well done movie, though. If you're a fan of giant robots and good writing and good animation, I would recommend Neon Genesis Evangelion and The End of Evangelion, because they're both pinnacles of Japanese sci-fi animation. And I'm done being a complete weeaboo.
No, you're done waxing about your favorite anime on Netflix right now.
Well, I'm definitely a fan of older school anime style animation. I know I watched Perfect Blue a couple months ago, And
we saw that.
Oh, that was that was interesting.
yeah, it was, and I was like, man, this like hand drawn style of anime is like it's a little sloppier, but that's kind of like what I like about it.
Part of its charm.
Yeah.
You can tell that it's actually like hand drawn in every scene, which
Yeah.
I watched a documentary on animation, and they've kind of gone away from that recently. But in the older times, the reason why like we're so nostalgic for these kind of animation is because they literally hand drew every scene. Anyways, my recommendation is Neon Genesis Evangelion and The End of Evangelion, and I know there's a lot of weeaboos out there who would disagree with me, but The End of Evangelion is a great movie. So yeah.
All right.
Suck it.
So
Yes, suck it.
And for the casual anime fan that's really only seen Pokemon, Detective Pikachu, and bits of Yu-Gi-Oh!
And One Punch Man.
And One Punch Man, are they going to enjoy this?
No,
It's a little too deep for that.
It's-
It's deep into the anime lore.
I wouldn't say. Here's what I would say about it is that it deals with a lot of very weird human condition like situations. So it's very cerebral. So if you're a fan of Pokemon, you might not be a fan of Neon Genesis, but if you're a fan of Gundam Wing, you might be.
Oh baby.
Yeah.
All right. Well, my streaming picks, I got two as well.
All right.
First one is a streaming service, not Fubo. We'll talk about them later. Really, I don't know about Fubo. I got a lot to say about Fubo, and none of it's very flattering. But Pluto TV is a streaming service. Joseph, have you heard of that?
I've heard of it. I have it on my PlayStation.
Really?
And I know that they have a dedicated channel to Mystery Science Theater.
Dude,
What?
yeah, I just downloaded it this morning. I heard about it over the last week, and I thought, when I get home and I'm on a weekend, I'll download it and see if it's worth the damn. So I used to have PlayStation View, was $30 a month or $40 a month or something. And full disclosure, I don't have cable. I haven't had cable since 2003 or 2004, except for when I was like renting a room with some guys, some of my friends.
Preacher brother.
Yeah, so I haven't really paid for cable in, 17 years or 14 years or something.
Yeah.
And I always missed the being able to flip through channels and just like find something random nonsense to put on.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So when I had PlayStation View, all I had to do was watch Impractical Jokers, and I couldn't give myself justify $30 a month for that, so I canceled it. But this is free, and it's got full TV sort of layout, like TV Guide. Scroll through the channels, see what's on in an hour. It's pretty cool. And then there's streaming like on-demand sort of movies as well.
Mm-hmm.
I watched Rain Man on demand. They
Nice.
had Black Snake Moan on demand, like some like semi-recent, pretty good movies, you know.
Yeah.
Side note about Rain Man, I watched it this morning. Who do you think scored that movie?
Hans Zimmer.
Hans Zimmer scored Rain Man.
I'm not surprised, but I'm also surprised at the same time.
I can only name two composers.
I didn't want to say Hans Zimmer because I was just like, well, no, it's not Hans Zimmer.
If it's not Hans Zimmer, and we're quoting composers for movies, it's either him or Danny Elfman, because I can't name any of the rest of them. But Pluto TV, I downloaded on PlayStation as well, the PlayStation Store. Pretty solid. Kind of scrolled through a little bit. We were watching Battle Royale dubbed over in English.
Oh, yeah.
Before,
Yeah, good
you know,
one.
while we were like doing dishes. Me and Bree were doing dishes today. But pretty solid. Good free service. Can't go wrong with free. So, and then the actual streaming pick is called the Barkley Marathons, the race that eats its young, on Hulu. Actually, I'm sorry, not Hulu, Amazon Prime.
Oh, okay.
So if you have Amazon Prime, then you have Amazon Prime Video. If you haven't tapped into Amazon Prime Video and you do have the Amazon Prime for like free shipping and whatnot, you're missing out on a ton of great content. But this is a documentary made in 2015. It's called the Barkley Marathons, Barkley. I don't know where the name comes from. I think it's the guy's last name that puts on the marathon.
Oh, okay, I thought it was
But
dog
it-
related.
It is, what's that?
I thought it was dog related.
No, no.
That's
It
what
is-
I thought
it's-
too.
So, have you guys ever heard of ultra marathoners?
I have.
Mhm.
I've never heard of
No.
it. No.
So, ultra marathoners are like guys that will run like a marathon's 26 miles and it's brutal, right?
Yeah.
These guys run like 150, 200 mile marathons
Holy shit.
for
Yeah.
just for fun. And they're like, oh yeah, how about a 400-mile marathon? They'll run ridiculous lengths that are just unfathomable to a normal person. But this race, it chews up and spits out ultra marathoners like every year.
Oh yeah, I'm reading it right now. It looks like it's a 100-mile course.
So it's 100 miles, but it's done over the course of multiple days. So they'll do 100 miles in one direction. The next day they'll do 100 miles in the other direction on the course, and then the next day they do. I think they do 2 cycles. They change directions halfway, or the people who are remaining go in opposite directions, so they pass themselves at the 50-mile mark if they're even dead heat. But it's through the mountains of the Appalachia. It's based off of a famous prison escape, and so they run through from this area to in the middle of the woods, out in the middle of nowhere. They have a very crudely drawn map, and the way that it's very very unique circumstances for the race. It's not very polished. It's not very professional. When you get to a checkpoint, there's a book nailed to a tree. You have to pull out the page that it matches your number of your race number, your race bib. So if you're racer number 50, you got to go to page 50. You rip it out, put it in your pocket, and take it with you to the next point. When you get to the end, if you have all the pages from the checkpoints, you've completed the cycle.
That's awesome.
Yeah. One of the cycles is goes through the prison, and you have to kind of swim through the river, mimicking the escaped attempt of the people that escaped from the prison 50 years ago or whatever.
Yeah, so I just was reading about the history about this thing on this Wikipedia page.
Mm-hmm.
The Barkley course was designed by Gary Lazarus Lake Cantrell, and his idea for the race was inspired about the escape of James Earl Ray, who was the assassin of Martin Luther King Jr.
Oh wow, I forgot about that. It's been a while since I've seen this. I've seen it a few years ago when it first came out. It is bananas.
Yeah, that sounds crazy, dude. 100 miles in the Appalachia, damn.
You feel so bad for these people running, and it's hilarious. The entry fee is a pair of a flannel shirt and a bag of dog food for the guy's dog.
Awesome.
So this isn't an official part of international marathon.
No,
It's underground,
you wouldn't,
dude.
It's underground.
It's an
This is
underground marathon.
It is no joke. So I didn't know what to expect when I went into it. I heard about this through, I can't remember where. Watched it. It's bananas. So totally worth a watch. Sit down with your significant other or a couple of friends, and it's a good one to poke fun at and commiserate with these people as they run this marathon.
I'm into it.
And I say marathon very loosely because, like I said, marathon's 23 miles.
26.2.
Yeah, sorry, 26.2 miles. This is hundreds of miles over the course of a few days. And they every year, there's a bunch of little fun facts about it, which makes the documentary very fun to watch. But one of the fun facts is they qualify the people who get led into the race. Every year they pick one person who is definitely not qualified, but feels they are very qualified.
Mm-hmm.
And they're he's like the sacrificial lamb. And they kind of they kind of watch him and take bets to see how far he can make it through the race. And the year of the documentary, it was some retired Navy SEAL guy who ran the Boston Marathon 5 times and thought, I could do this. It's no big deal. And I don't think he made it half a day.
Dude, that's so awesome. I'm really into this. I think I'm gonna check it out, and I'm gonna check out Pluto TV as well because I'm in the same boat. I wish there was a streaming service that just did random shows.
It's called Pluto TV.
Yeah. I'm into it.
Yeah. It's got a little bit of live sports, which is the other thing I really miss about not having cable. Nothing that blew my socks off, but it was there's a dedicated episode or channel just for Antiques Roadshow. It's a dedicated channel just for Gordon Ramsay TV shows,
Nice.
binge-worthy stuff.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Mystery
so-
Science Theater.
Yeah, Mystery Science Theater.
I'm into it.
There's an MTV channel that does actual music videos like MTV in its heyday. So
Oh, cool.
pretty interesting, and can't be
Vintage
free.
Yeah, I'm into it. I think I'll check that out.
Shout out to new sponsors, Pluto TV. Thanks for the swag, guys. Appreciate it.
In the house.
Fuck you, Fubo.
Fubo. We'll talk later about that.
Oh, you're on the list.
Yeah. You guys want to get into 310 to Yuma?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, cool. So, all right, 310 to Yuma from 2007, starring Russell Crowe, Christian Bale, and Logan Lerman, which is the son of Christian Bale's character. You may also know Logan Lerman from the Percy Jackson series, directed by James Mangold, who also directed Walk the Line, Logan, The Wolverine, and the new docu-pic Ford versus Ferrari that's going to be coming out with Christian Bale as well.
He did Logan?
He did Logan.
Holy
Yeah.
shit, I
Dude.
love Logan.
I did
Jim
too.
Mangold.
Yeah, James
He's a-
Mangold. He's a heavyweight. He is a heavyweight.
Yeah, he's got a pretty good, interesting pedigree. There's a bunch of other movies on his IMDb page, but those are the kind of the ones that I feel like our audience would connect with.
Yeah, for sure.
This was the first movie that I noticed Ben Foster in, character actor. I haven't really seen him in any leading roles, but so good. He plays Charlie Prince. For me, probably top 10 characters in any movie that I've witnessed. I love his character, Charlie Prince, in this movie.
Oh yeah, me too. He's good. He's
and
good.
also, yeah, great supporting cast of characters from Alan Tudyk, Luke Wilson, Peter Fonda, and Kevin Durand.
Kevin Durand.
Name a lot of people may not know, but he played in Noah, the Wolverine Origins series, The Blob. He was the asshole cop in Fruitvale Station. Robin Hood, also with Russell Crowe, and Smokin' Aces. Just a great character
Oh,
actor.
yeah,
So,
Smokin' Aces.
what were you guys' thoughts?
You go, Joseph.
No, you go.
Okay.
Opening sequence of this movie was short but intense. Like it was I think it was a good kind of start to the movie.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of get a feel for each of the characters, at least the Christian Bale's character and his son.
Yeah.
You learn that Christian Bale is an amputee and that his son is kind of brave but kind of reckless at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Like he goes into the burning barn or the stable to get whatever.
I think it's the last feed. I think that's what he
Yeah,
says. This is the
yeah.
last feed we have.
He's very motivated to keep that family unit like strong
Mm-hmm.
for sure.
Yeah, and then one thing that stuck out to me right away when Christian Bale started talking, I was like, man, Christian Bale is the accent king.
Seriously.
Because he's Welsh. He's like his accent is thick.
Wait, Christian Bale
Yeah.
is Welsh? Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's Welsh.
I didn't know that. I could not. I would never have known that. Wow.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful casting choice. I think the two of them, Christian Bale and Russell Crowe, neither of them Americans, playing ultra typical prototype Western Americans.
Yeah.
One Australian and one Welsh.
I didn't even know Russell. I thought Russell Crowe was American too. Oh my god.
Wake up, Tyler.
That's crazy.
We're living amongst imposters.
Yeah. But overall, I think the movie was. I would put it in my top 5 modern Western movies, along with like The Proposition and Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford. Not quite as action based that movie as this one.
The Jesse James one.
Yeah, and 2 other westerns.
two others that shall not be named.
But yeah, I would definitely put that up there.
How about you, Tyler? What do you think?
So, 310 to Yuma. I'm just gonna say it right now. This remake of 310 to Yuma was much better than the original one. Russell Crowe and Christian Bale freaking hit a home run with this movie. Like I loved 310 to Yuma. it was engaging immediately. Like right in the first scene, it was engaging, and I attribute this to the director of photography and the director as well. Like the camera work was really good, just like right off the bat. Which I think if you're gonna Western movies are like held dear to like the old school American. They think that it's like this like really like golden age of filmmaking, like these spaghetti westerns.
Yeah.
Disagree completely.
Wow,
Yeah.
so brave.
You have these home run hitters. You have Russell Crowe and Christian Bale. Both, I would argue. So this movie came out in 2007. Like that, it was like almost at their peak. You know, like you have Russell Crowe. Like he was in the Gladiator, right? That Gladiator.
Yeah, I don't know what year that was.
2000.
I don't know if that came out before or after.
But like
it was way before.
Well, I guess the context is that after that movie, he became like a serious actor because it was a really good movie. Anyways, 3:10 to Yuma was great. The shot, the sound design, the shots, everything made it feel like the Western that you imagine what a Western would feel like when you're watching it. And they got that effect way better than the original 3:10 to Yuma, and I think that
Did you watch the whole thing, Tyler? The whole original?
Yeah, and it was
1957,
Yep.
based
With,
off of a novel by Leonard Elmore.
It was something I can't remember the guy's name. I know the actor's name was Ford. I didn't really recall the actors in that movie.
People that we probably wouldn't consider household names nowadays, but maybe if you were 30 years older, you would. Glenn Ford and Van Heflin.
Oh, that's what it was.
Heflin.
It was Glenn
Van
Ford.
Heflin,
Yeah, anyways, 3:10 to Yuma, really good movie, engaging right at the start. The shot in the morning. So
I really like how at the beginning there's two intro shots. I mean, there's
that's exactly what I was gonna say. Yeah,
you're introducing Christian Bale and his family. You get a really good synopsis of that, and then it's smash cut to the first stagecoach holdup, and you get everything you need to know about Ben Wade and his posse from the beginning until he. I think, I don't know about you guys. We're 4 episodes in. I don't feel like it's an obligation, since we're talking about 12-year-old movies, to worry about spoilers so much.
Yeah.
But spoiler alert, after at the end of that scene when he kills his own, for getting sloppy, you really learn everything you need to know about him, and more importantly, in my opinion, Charlie Prince.
I gotta mention this.
So good.
I gotta mention this shot though. After they burn down the barn, the morning after, it's a hard cut, but right. Like, it shows, like, the whole ranch with the barn burnt down for just, like, I would say, like, 3 seconds. But that 3 seconds was one of the most amazing cinematography I've seen in a...
I don't even recall that shot.
It's so short. It's so short. But when you... this is just something I just really noticed, and... It was such an incredible shot, and that's what really got me engaged in the movie. It was like, you got Christian Bale engaging with his son. That dialogue was really well done, and it's really exciting.
I feel bad for Dan Evans throughout the whole thing. He feels like he's just a good guy trying to do the right thing.
Yeah.
He's in a bad spot.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole time you kind of think, man, just move out of this shithole. Why are you in Arizona?
Yeah, that's what I said. I actually didn't find out they were in Arizona till the end of the movie.
Oh yeah,
Yuma.
I didn't even
Yuma,
know.
Arizona.
Oh yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
But no, you feel bad for him, and the whole time isn't Yuma in Arizona?
I think so. I mean, like,
Sounds like an Arizona place.
Sounds like someplace
I'm not
terrible.
familiar with geography.
Well, I feel like the whole time, that every time his like oldest son William just gets a real tough dig at him, you just see him like suck it up and be like, all right, I guess I deserve that.
The first one was the first one that I caught was like when I think it's the morning after or the day after, and Christian Bale He's like, well, someday when you walk in my shoes, you'll learn. And then she's like, I'm never gonna walk in your shoes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of good. At my notes, I took I wrote down that there's this movie is chock full of great prototypical Western one-liners.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna read off a few right now. Let's see. One of my favorite quotes, which I realize I've been quoting wrong for many years. I quote to Joseph all the time. I said, "They had a lot of weapons, Mister, and they were shooting bullets."
I wrote that down.
Charlie Prince.
I literally wrote that down.
Oh, it's so funny. His character, you just see his like the craziness in his eyes, and when he walks in right to the sheriff of Bisbee, and tells him, "Yeah, the stagecoach got held up," and you're like, "This dude's insane."
Dude, Charlie Prince was the most realistic character in this film.
The best, absolutely the best. You know, did you notice in the scene, the first stagecoach robbery, when Peter Fonda's character Byron McElroy, he's on the ground, shot, and he looks at him and he says, "I'm Charlie Prince or whatever," and he goes, "I heard of a coward named Charlie Princess."
Yeah.
And do you notice that was a little bit of an illusion that maybe he's a little gay for Ben Wade? You get that little bit of homoerotic, like he really likes his boss.
When Charlie Prince, when the first shot you see of Charlie Prince, when I saw it, I wrote down Ben Foster, the Metro Cowboy.
Wearing a skin tight white leather, double-breasted jacket.
Yeah,
just
and it looks
like
like he's wearing.
Badass.
It looks like he's wearing eyeliner.
A little bit.
Oh, really? I didn't.
In that first shot, at least, I was like, is he wearing?
He wants to be pretty for Ben. Okay.
Yeah.
Ben's gonna be there. Better put my best eyeliner on.
Yeah.
Well, the costume design, fantastic.
Oh yeah.
I wrote down.
Oh yeah.
I wrote down great hats, double underlined. Oh, it's so good.
The best hats.
It's the best hats. You can't be. Yeah. You have to be a bad guy and wear a cool hat.
Yeah. I'll say this about Westerns is that when it comes to the wardrobe, every time I watch one, I'm like, man, those coats look warm.
Yeah, I know. They're running around. It looks really hot outside, and they're wearing layers of leather.
Yeah, like, well, I guess, I mean, you see snow at the end of the movie.
Oh, really?
And like you see breath, like their breath. And I'm like, is it cold out there?
Well,
it looks hot.
Yeah, the desert gets hella cold in the morning, and then it heats up, and then it cools down.
Yeah.
The pants that Charlie Prince is wearing throughout most of the movie, like these like kind of burnt orange pants. I listened to an interview with Ben Foster about the making of this movie, and he said the second he walked into the wardrobe and saw the orange pants and white leather jacket he was gonna wear for the movie, he's like, I was transported back to being like 5 years old, wanting to be a cowboy, because I used to have a pair of orange pants that looked just like that, and I'd wear them every time I was playing cowboys, and I thought, oh my god, I get to be a 4-year-old playing cowboys and Indians again. This is great.
With a gun and murdering people? Hell yeah.
Yeah. Tell me where they're taking him, mister.
I definitely
or you'll burn.
I definitely want to comment on the score of this movie too, because this definitely plays a really big part in the feel of watching this. It's super subtle, yet it's very upfront at the same time. Like it I don't know, it works so well with the scenes that you don't notice it, and then when you notice it, like you notice it, but it's good.
Did you notice at the very end of the movie, the climax scene, when the train is idling, the steam engine's just sitting there and it's just chugging away, chug chug, chug chug, like long. It's like this almost like a drum beat while you're waiting for something to happen.
Yeah,
and it was a great audio tool to use to like build this tension. It was really great, and that was the only Oscar. It had a few nominations: best ensemble cast for the SAG Awards, 2 nominations for sound design and sound mixing, and it actually ended up. Actually, I don't think it won for the Oscars, but it had 2 nominations for sound design and sound mixing. which was obvious. It was very, very well done.
That's
audio.
another thing about westerns is that a lot of them have pretty good sound mixing. I don't know what it is about the westerns that make the sound mixing stand out.
Maybe it's such a sparse storytelling genre. It's like you just have the basics. It's a guy and his horse out in the middle of the desert dealing with real life shit, and you really just have the performance of the actors and some good sound design. It's really kind of a sparse.
And this is why
movie making.
Yeah, this is why I love westerns, though, and actually specifically modern westerns, because it only relies on the actual like artistry of the technicality of making movies. Because when you look at the plot of 3:10 to Yuma, there's not a whole lot there, so you really have to focus on the actors.
Has to be technically well done, or else it's really obvious. You can't hide it with a bunch of CGI and explosions.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's why I really like this movie because of that, because it made you feel like you were there instead of watching a movie, which you would expect with westerns, because it's supposed to be a story that you're engaged in, like with the characters rather than watching the characters.
Yeah, it's not like you're watching Australia with Hugh Jackman and Nicole Kidman, where it's like CGI Australia.
It's CGI Australia. It's not a Michael Bay movie.
Speaking of Michael Bay, I do want to point out a scene early on in the movie where Byron, the bounty hunter, is being chased by Ben Wade and his crew, and Byron happens to notice some dynamite on a horse, and he shoots the dynamite and explodes the horse.
Oh yeah.
I noted that down too. Or like they blew up a GD horse.
They blew up a horse.
They blew up a horse.
Yeah, that poor horse. I think that was probably the best CGI of the whole movie.
There was a moment in the movie, I can't remember exactly. It must have been after the stagecoach raid.
First stagecoach robbery.
Where the son, is it Will? William is his name, right?
Mm-hmm.
He uses the phrase, "Here comes the cavalry," unironically.
Yeah. I thought about that too. I'm like, wow, that would be...
I've never heard that used unironically.
It was definitely made with a lot of, like, I feel like there was a lot of respect for the classic traditional Western genre, but done so much better.
Yeah.
Me and Tyler were talking about it before you jumped on, Joseph, but he was telling me modern Westerns are so much better, and you watched the whole original, like, 1957 version.
Yeah.
I watched the climax scene just to kind of get a feel for what it was, and I thought, well, if this is any good, I can rewatch it. I got through 6 minutes of that 7-minute scene. I was like, all right, I get the gist of it. I'm all right. This pacing is pretty draining to watch this whole thing.
I don't know. I can't say I've watched many like old westerns other than maybe like the Clint Eastwood Good, Bad, and Ugly.
That's
the only
one.
one.
Dollars trilogy.
Yeah, it's really the only ones that stand out to me. And I probably won't revisit them.
I mean, they're okay. Like, they're good for their time, but it's like when you're comparing it to the remake of 3:10 to Yuma, like, I mean, come on, it's not even in the same ballpark. Like, I mean, I know this will trigger a lot of boomers and older people, but I'm sorry, Christian Bale is one of the best actors alive ever.
Yes.
Him and Jamie Kennedy.
Yes. You've been axed.
So yeah. Speaking of like classic remakes, when I was in junior high school, House on Haunted Hill came out in junior high or high school, and I really wanted to watch it. I thought this is gonna be scary, and I went to Blockbuster Video and I rented it, and I went up to the counter because I knew what I wanted when I arrived at Blockbuster Video, and they rented me the 1959 version with Vincent Price. Oh shit! I took it home and watched it. I'm like, the hell
What
is
is
this?
this?
I was thinking it was like one of those, where they do like a black and white intro and then it cuts to, color and all this, whatever. It was not that. It was about 70 minutes long. It was terrible. It was the worst. I'm not going to
Well, the remake isn't any better.
No, I'm going to say it is better. It's still not a good movie.
I would
though.
say, objectively, it's probably better than the original. But
you don't like Taye Diggs?
Still.
What do you have against Taye Diggs?
Actually, I got a lot of issues with Taye Diggs.
The penultimate action scene where they're doing the rooftop chase through contention. That was probably it was a really well written action scene.
Yeah.
So it's like a roller coaster. I mean, the cliche, it's a roller coaster ride, but it's like the bad guy is working with the good guy, and then the good guy turns people bad, of the good town people bad, and then the bad guy turns on the now bad people. Mm-hmm. The shooting the town people. It's like Charlie Prince is now shooting the townspeople who he enlisted to kill, Dan or any of his captors. And then Ben Wade stops working with the good guy. Like, he could stop at any time. He's not going to be able to get pushed through town by a one-legged farmer or rancher. He stops at some point, becomes dead weight, and he's like, let's give it up. What are you doing? Your son's gone. Whatever. Then he turns good, and then he gets all energetic, and he starts pulling him through. He's like, I'm gonna get both of us to this train. Mm-hmm. And then at the very end, the bad guy, the worst bad guy, turns on the other second worst bad guy. It's like it's back and forth. It's a really well written action scene. I just absolutely love that final chase scene.
Well, maybe it's a little bit off topic here, but so when the youngest son of Ben,
Dan,
when they show the scene of him giving medicine,
Mm-hmm.
I just couldn't help but think that back in those times, medicine was like full of like heroin and cocaine and shit. Here, Sonny, drink up this heroin.
He's got a nasty H habit. That's funny.
One thing that I thought was kind of weird, and I can't remember if it played out or not, was other than the fact that it was like kind of funny, was when they take Byron McElroy to the doctor.
Yeah.
And then he's like, "What kind of doctor are you?" And then he's like, "Well, you're the first patient that talks to me," or whatever.
Yeah, it's nice to have a patient that talks.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, how did Byron even freaking make it through that? They just pulled his stomach, or they pulled his pull it out of his stomach, and you're just like, yeah, you're good to go.
Yep.
Just patch
they
it
just
up.
gave him some heroin, and he was all right.
But that's true, though. Oh my god.
So you wanted him to talk about the doctor being a vet more?
So like, yeah, it's just like the point of that, him being a vet doctor, was just for that small little
just
joke.
for cheap laughs.
Yeah. Because it didn't come back, did it? Right?
No, it didn't.
Oh.
They did call him Doc the rest of the time, Doc Potter.
Yeah.
That was the best they got, Joseph.
The
best they got.
Did they? Hey, this was written in 1957. Come on.
That's how it is. We gotta do it like that.
Did you guys? Whenever they pull a bullet out of someone in a movie, do you just wait for the metal tin to come out and the bullet to tink into it?
Yes. Yeah. It's funny that you say that, because that's exactly what I was thinking.
It's gonna clink.
And they did it so well in that scene too, because I think that people were expecting that, because it was a little delayed. Instead of already having it out, like they made it a point to show it coming out, and then to show it.
They always do. It has to. It's like an international law. You can't write a scene with someone getting a bullet pulled out of them unless you tink it into a metal tin afterwards.
Dude, you gotta hear that ting. You gotta hear that ting.
Or else that's how you know the scene's over.
You're all better.
Yep, exactly.
I thought the pacing was solid. It reminded me a little bit of the Mad Max, where there's a lot of action scenes, boom, 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 scene after scene after scene of action, and then they'll take a probably good 10-15 minute pause for a little exposition, a little bit of talk between the characters, get to know the characters a little bit better, but really well-written characters. You almost feel bad for Ben Wade near the end. I mean, he's a total prick, murdering bastard.
Yeah, you kind of don't really learn too much about his background.
Not till the end.
Yeah, and even then, it's still not like all of the context, but it's I think it's just enough for you to, because he says to Will, I think, when he's talking to his son, he's like, sometimes you don't choose the life that you want or something like that. Like he just, like, series of events led up to him being an outlaw, basically. And now he's just in it. Now he's just wanted everywhere.
I do like the line when Byron talks shit about Ben Wade's mom. He says, that's real rich coming from a grave digging drunk, the seed of a grave digging drunk and a whore mother. And he jumps off the horse, beats the shit out of Byron, and says, even bad men love their mothers, and then yeets him off a cliff.
Just throws him off a cliff. And I was like, I guess he's gone.
I guess Byron's dead.
Yeah, I was like, how big was that cliff?
The dialogue between Russell Crowe and Christian Bale in multiple scenes of this movie were one of the best that I have ever seen.
They have a great relationship
in a Western movie, and like
they're working against each other, but they're kind of working with each other at times.
It's conflicting forces that is sort of giving us these great interactions.
And I really like the fact that Christian Bale's character, because you would start falling for the charisma of Ben Wade.
He's so
because
charming.
He's very smooth talking, like he's very good with words.
So
you start falling into his charisma, and then I loved that Christian Bale would like interrupt that scene and be like, "Nope, he ruined families. Like, how many families did he ruin? How many people did he kill?" Like, I loved that he kept the audience in like a realistic state. Because,
the audience and also characters in the movie. He had to like reel his wife in. She was basically throwing herself at him at the dinner table.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, she was like getting enamored with him at that dinner scene.
Yeah, that scene was pretty well blocked and written. Just like the awkward tension, the clanking of the plates and forks, and then like, can you cut my meat for me or whatever?
Thank you, Dan. I'm much obliged.
Like, it's very like on one end, it's like it seems kind of demeaning towards Dan because he's cutting his meat for Ben Wade, but also like he's cutting meat for Ben Wade. Like, Ben Wade can't eat a steak. Like,
that is interesting. I didn't think about it like that.
Just like
he's
putting him in
he's
his
incapable
place.
of doing it, so he has to be the one to do it for him.
Yeah.
There was a interesting deleted scene that never made it to the final cut. That Ben Wade's talking to Byron, and he says, "Hey, I heard your boss Al Pinkerton died after he bit his tongue. Is that true?" And in real life, this movie is not based off of true events, but Al Pinkerton was the owner of the Pinkerton outfit, which basically was like hired guns to guard stagecoaches during delivery.
Yeah.
And he did die from an infection after he bit his own tongue in July of 1884.
Wow.
Oh my
God.
How do you bite your tongue so hard that you need to have an infection on that? Like, what was he doing?
Maybe he didn't brush his teeth.
It was the cocaine.
The heroin and all the cocaine he was doing.
Yeah, so it probably set this movie in sometime in the late 1884 era. Any other thoughts on this? I mean, I think it's
Luke Wilson was in this movie.
Yeah.
He was so good he's always so great as a side character. Like, I don't know what it is about that dude, but every side character he's been in any show that I like or any movie that I've seen him in, he's always so great as a side character.
He's a good
Love
character.
Luke Wilson.
Yeah. So I have some things. The first shout out to the name of the movie, 50 minutes, 30 seconds in.
Woo!
And not only do they say it once, but 4 times
They
total.
say it 4 times, yeah.
They say it again at 59 minutes and 42 seconds. Not 10 minutes later. Not even 10 minutes later, they say it again. And then they say it again at 1 hour, 30 minutes, 25 seconds.
I didn't appreciate though that he says that they don't give it the respect that it's due. They say they're gonna put him on a 310 to Yuma prison.
Yeah.
Did you have to say prison? It could have been. That could have been a great moment for
The
myself.
310 to Yuma. Yeah.
A little trivia I found out about 310 to Yuma is that when the clock strikes 3 in the movie, like 10 minutes until the train shows up, it's actual real time.
Real time, 10 minutes.
Real run time. Oh, that's cool.
That's real 10 minutes to the train coming through. I thought that was kind of
That's neat.
interesting. Yeah.
10 minute set, and then the set of contention, the town where the train is departing from to Yuma prison, is half built during the production. Kind of showing that it's an up and coming town. They're building it. It's a time of expansion in the Wild West, but in reality, they just ran out of budget and they couldn't finish the set. So
You couldn't even really tell though.
No,
like, that set.
It looked great. I mean,
Yeah, that set looked as complete as it could be. Like I guess I
they're
could
running
see
through the
like
scaffolding and the framing of some of the buildings, but
the shots were really like, they were really fast paced. So like for you to even really notice that the set wasn't completed, I don't know. Like that would be a stretch.
yeah. Well, there's definitely a couple scenes where they're running through construction. Like it's a framed building that's just literally just 2x4s framing a building, but it makes total sense along the plot because as soon as the railroad comes to town, instant growth. You have instant growth. It's like
Yeah, exactly.
It's gonna happen. So kind of happy coincidence.
Yeah, I actually agree. It definitely works out because I kind of forgot like the railroad was becoming a huge thing, and so there was a bunch of like really fast expansions. It would actually make sense that it would look not completed. It would just look like basically surface level complete.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
So on the point of, Dan throughout the movie is kind of, his character is like, he wants to sort of redeem himself, gain the respect of his son and his family. And there's a great line in the beginning of the movie, right before they take off, that Deanna actually pointed out to me, that he says, "I'm tired of the way my boys look at me, and I'm tired of the way you don't." And I think that just like gives us everything, like his entire motivation for doing what he does to the rest of the movie, because as we learn later, when Ben Wade and him are sort of fighting each other near the end of the movie before they get in the train, and as Ben Wade is almost like choking him out, Christian Bale admits, or Dan admits,
he's never a hero. Yeah,
that he never saw a battle and that he only lost his leg because one of his own men shot him in the leg. Well,
it was even worse than that. He got shot in the foot and he blew his foot off. And early in the movie with his wife, he's saying, "If only they wouldn't have taken so much of my leg." So he got his foot blown off and they took half of his leg.
Yeah,
which is real shitty.
Yeah,
but that line is the first line I think of when I think of this movie and the emotion behind it. I'm tired of watching my boys go hungry. I'm tired of the way they look at me. I'm tired of the way that you don't.
Yeah, so he's definitely just doing it to prove himself, like not only to himself but to his family. Mm-hmm. He dies doing it.
I think it was really great that they killed off this character too, because spoiler alert, in the original the character doesn't die. This movie was like the final nail in the coffin that I knew that modern Western movies are better than original Western movies, because modern Western movies are not afraid to go to the places that the original ones were. They wanted happy endings in the older ones, but this one's, they're just like, yep, Dan dies a failure of of his own ideal house like head role.
Yeah, it's totally like antithetical to what you would consider a happy ending for that era. I don't know if there really was a whole lot of, besides, I don't know. It's you really can't imagine this grim, bleak final button put on the end of the story in the 50s.
Yeah, it's a comment on masculinity and the need to be remembered, a hero.
I don't think Christian Bale. I should say I don't think anyone but Christian Bale could have played that role.
Originally, it was supposed to be Tom Cruise, which
Whoa. Yeah. Okay.
they would have had to find a place for a motorcycle chase scene in this movie if Tom Cruise was in it.
He could have definitely done the running. He could have broke his foot jumping on the rooftops, though.
Yeah. The final scene. Sorry to cut you off, Joseph, but I just want to, before I forget, the final scene. They reference his gun, Russell Crowe's gun, or Ben Wade's gun, called the Hand of God, a couple of times, and when the Tucker, the goon, played by Kevin Durand, takes it from him when he's first apprehended, he says, "Careful with that. That gun's cursed." If you notice, the posse's been carrying that gun around this entire time, and when they give it back to Ben Wade, they toss it to every single member of the posse. They toss it like a ball in a warm-up ball in a beginning of a inning of a baseball. They toss it from person to person all the way across. It gets to Charlie Prince, and they give it to Ben Wade, and then he murders all of them with that gun. Every one of them touched the gun. It's cursed. Yeah. And then they get all murdered at the hand of the god.
Oh, yeah,
and also,
that's true.
Ben Wade murders Kevin Durand in his sleep, like stabbing him in the throat over and over again.
Oh, that was screwed. That sound in that scene is gruesome.
Yeah.
That was a good scene, though. That was a really good scene because it really showed like how dangerous this dude was. Like, because everyone was falling in love with his words and his charisma, and then all of a sudden it's a hard cut of him stabbing Kevin Durant in the throat multiple times with a
forking
fork.
him in the neck.
Yeah.
Just like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Byron's the only one who really knows the
true
capabilities and nature of Ben Wade.
Dude, fuck Byron though. Like, I was with Ben Wade on him when he was talking about like how his atrocities towards the Apache people.
Yeah.
I was just like, yeah, fuck Byron, dude.
He killed all of them, not just the men, the women and children too.
Wade, I wrote, Wade is a realist in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he just states shit as it is, but he's also a criminal at the same time. But he's just like, he's logical, realistic, and sort of almost the voice of reason.
He's like chaotic neutral.
Yeah, exactly. I definitely think that if there was a different cast, I don't think this movie would be as strong as it is.
Oh no,
I
like
agree.
the caliber of those actors that were playing in this movie, like that's why I love about these modern westerns, though. It hinges on the technicality of everyone, and when it comes together, it is really good.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine if Keanu Reeves played the Dan Evans character?
I don't know. I mean, like he could pull it off.
Him and Dan, yeah, it'd be like, I'm tired of standing on one leg, waiting for God to answer my prayers.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, let's wrap it up. We're about an hour or so into this thing, and
I will say though that Tom Hooper, the director of Les Mis, I bet he saw this movie and saw Russell Crowe singing and was like, "Wow, he's Javert. He's the one."
He is the one.
Javert.
Speaking of which, since we are already an hour into this movie, after an hour of watching this movie, it felt like it could have ended satisfyingly. To be honest with you, like after they reached contention, you're like, oh, if it ended right there, I would have been happy. I would have been like, oh yeah, yep,
It'd be an almost awesome movie.
Yeah,
And it would be the ending that the 1957 version got.
Exactly.
So ratings. For me, this is a solid like 4.5 stars.
Out of 10?
Great movie. Out of 10. Out of 25. I'm giving it 5 Charlie Princes out of 5.
Okay.
Five white leather double-breasted jackets out of 5.
Would you put this in your top 10 favorite movies?
No, not top 10, but it's pretty high up there. Charlie Prince is in my top 10 characters of all time.
Top 20 then.
I'd say somewhere in that range. I'd say probably top 25. It's
Wow.
For the genre, it's my pick. I know Joseph likes The Proposition probably more than this. I don't know if after watching this if you still do or not, but
this movie was, The Proposition is like an artsy version of this movie, and more violent version, I think, and it's also Australian. It's a Nick Cave movie, much like Assassination of Jesse James.
Oh yeah.
Plotting. The proposition reminded me of a cross between like this and like Book of Eli, with a little more art house booked into it.
Yeah.
The pacing of Book of Eli.
Yeah.
And the downtrodden post-apocalyptic
I mean,
feel of it.
if you like this movie, you should watch The Proposition. It's a little tougher watch, I think. Definitely, there are some scenes in there that are pretty brutal.
There's some tough stuff in that one.
Yeah. But it's good. I liked it a lot. Great sound design.
Did you see?
Great cast.
Have you seen The Rover?
No, I have not.
Another
Can't say I've
Australian
seen
post-apocalyptic sort of movie.
With Guy Pearce.
Yeah, Guy Pearce and Robert Pattinson.
Yeah.
First movie I saw with him in it where I was like, dude, this dude can act. This dude's good.
Yeah.
So that's a good recommendation if you get a chance to watch The Rover. Couldn't tell you where it's streaming right now, but that's fantastic as well.
Yeah. So ratings, 1 out of 5.
Yeah, what do you guys want to do? We're episode 4 in. A little peek behind the curtain.
We did out of 10 last
I think
week.
I don't know. I like 1 out of 5. I like 1 out of 5. I'm down with that. So I'm gonna rate this movie a 4 out of 5 for sure. Well, actually, you know what? I'm gonna even go a little bit further. I'm gonna put it at a 4.5 because I was so much into this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I was so
9 out of 10.
I was so into it. Yeah, yeah. You know, real the halfway point between a perfect score and not a perfect score. It was really
So 5.
So
5 out of 10.
4.5. 4.5.
4.5.
4.5 out of 5.
I mirror that. 4.5 out of 5 for me too. 4.5 stars.
But I will agree with you, Pete, though. I would say it's in a top 20 list instead of a top 10.
Mm-hmm.
Joseph, what do you say? What's your rating?
I will give this movie a 4.2.
A non-integer. Another non-integer.
I respect that. That.
We're doing the IMDb rating system. Yeah, that's what I give it. 4.2.
Nice. Well, I'm glad you guys liked it. It's obviously it's on the wheel, but it's it's one of my favorites to recommend to people.
Yeah.
Especially if you're into any sort of classic American cinema. All right, so a little payoff from last week. We talked about Fubo, this unknown streaming service which has the audacity to charge people $85 a month for some premium bullshit when the fine people at Pluto TV exist for free. So I decided to take the liberty to write Fubo an email and ask for some sponsorship, some shameless on my knees begging, and I'll read that letter to you now. This is addressed to the advertising department at Fubo TV. Dear Sir or Madam, my name is Pete from Middle Class Film Class, an up-and-coming powerhouse of a podcast with a listening audience well into the double digits. You don't know me and I don't know you, but we have a lot in common. For starters, no one's ever heard of Middle Class Film Class or Fubo for that matter. I'd like to change that. Imagine being able to reach your core demographic of struggling millennials who are reluctant to pay for frankly anything and doing it for practically nothing. Our podcast is made of 2 young film buffs and 1 aging miser with questionable film taste. That's me. We do deep dive reviews into a single movie each week and find that Fubo happens to have a lot of them that we want to discuss. If you'd be able to kick us down some Fubo subscriptions, we could guarantee airplay for your fine website, service. I don't know what you call yourself anyway. Let me know. We'd love to talk about Fubo. We're rooting for you.
Solid email.
Yes, it's so far 6 days, almost 7 days now. Not one response, so not holding a lot of hope out. But I plan on finding some other streaming services to reach out to.
Pluto TV.
Fubo!
Yeah, I don't know how that works. If they're already doing it for free, do they need the advertising?
Well,
I'll send them a letter. I'll send them an email. We'll see.
See what happens.
All right, guys. You guys ready to move on to the Wheel of Destiny?
Yes.
The wheel.
Come on, George of the Jungle.
All right, so
I don't even remember the picks.
I'll do a quick recap.
Peter, can't hear you. There you are.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, my screen completely took a shit on me and fell. Hold on.
Oh, good
This
thing
is-
it's over.
This
now.
is staying in. All right, hold on. Jesus Christ. That's what I get for buying a $12 screen on Amazon. It's universal fit, quote unquote. I'm gonna weld this fucking pivot point together so it doesn't do this again. God damn it. I literally just broke this thing in half.
Oh no.
All right. Good thing I got some Gorilla Glue in the garage. Holy Jesus Christ.
Spin the wheel of destiny.
All right, going back live. All right,
And
now
we're back.
Yeah, and we're back onto the Wheel of Destiny. So I'm taking 310 to Yuma off my pick. It is erased, gone. So we got Escape from New York for Tyler, Mad Max Fury Road for Tyler, George of the Jungle for Tyler, and and Joseph's picks are The Machinist, From Beyond,
Oh yeah, that's right.
and Double Down with Neil Breen.
That's the wild card
awesome.
though.
Yeah, it's a wild card. You Escape from New York and Double Down are the wild cards. If we land on one of those, huh?
What are you replacing with your pick, Pete?
Oh yeah, I have Stoker on there still,
Mm-hmm.
and I haven't even thought of what movie to put on there. I was giving Joseph a bunch of shit last week about it. Oh God, let's go with Moon. Sam Rockwell.
Yes, I love that movie.
I have it
I
too.
have seen this movie.
Nothing new for the three of us. I think we've all visited Moon before, but another one that's kind of in my back pocket. Throw out to people for recommendations if they're asking for an interesting movie.
Yeah, very.
Easy to digest, entertaining. So I don't know about how do you guys feel about this? If we land on one of the wild cards, the one we replace should be either picked by the audience or picked by our girlfriends.
Oh my God.
Is there an audience to pick?
No, there's not. We don't have an audience. The first person to comment on our episode post with a movie pick can go on the on the Wheel of Destiny once we land on a
They get a
wild
call in.
Yeah, call. Oh, speaking of which, we are working on the technology to take calls on air.
Yes, we are.
We have the technology.
So we have the technology. We just gotta get it in line, and if it works out, we may be taking a call on air for maybe a streaming pick, like a single streaming pick of the week from one of our friends or listeners.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
So, all right. So I added Moon. You guys ready for the spin?
Yep.
Yes.
All right.
Oh my God. What is it gonna be?
Oh my God, it's Moon.
Oh my God, yes.
First one on, first one off.
Wow.
All right.
Okay.
I promise it's not rigged.
I don't know. We can't see the wheel.
It's true. We're gonna put a live webcam on this next time.
Wheel cam.
Wheel cam.
All right. Well, I guess I'll be at the captain's chair next week too for Moon. You know what? It's
All
really
right.
sad too because you guys have 3 picks each and I have 2 picks on the wheel because you guys both have the wild card picks.
Yeah. Well,
Gods are favoring me today.
Hey, I am very stoked to watch Moon. I
Cool.
love that movie.
Yeah.
All right, so next week we'll be doing a deep dive into Moon, 2009, starring Sam Rockwell, directed by Duncan Jones. Not streaming anywhere for free, so you'll have to pay $3 for it on Amazon, Vudu, PlayStation Store, Redbox, or $4 to watch it on YouTube in 4K though. Should be nice. We will be spoiling that movie, so if you want to get the full experience and you don't want any spoilers for this movie, watch it ahead of time, and we'll be talking about it next week. I also want to remind everybody to follow us on Facebook, Middle Class Film Class Podcast on Facebook, and send us an email if you have a suggestion, idea for the show, suggestion for the Wheel of Destiny once we exhaust our wildcard picks. That is mcfcpodcast@gmail.com. We check it regularly, so if you send us an email, there's a good chance you're going to read it on air. All right, well, Until next week, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you all next time for Moon.
All right, later.
See you later, guys.